In the dim glow of a San Diego dive bar, where the air hummed with the low rumble of laughter and clinking glasses, a battle-hardened Navy SEAL named Jake Harlan leaned against the worn oak counter, his eyes locking onto a woman sitting alone at the end. She was striking, sharp features framed by dark hair pulled back in a no-nonsense ponytail, her posture screaming quiet confidence amid the chaos of Friday night revelry. He sauntered over, flashing that trademark grin that had disarmed tougher crowds than this, and casually asked, "What's your call sign, darling? You look like you've got stories that could outpace mine." She turned, her green eyes piercing like a laser sight, and without missing a beat, replied, "Viper 1." The glass slipped from his fingers, shattering on the floor as beer foamed across the tiles. His face drained of color, freezing him in place like he'd just seen a ghost from the battlefield rise up and order a whiskey neat. Hey, if you're loving these edge-of-your-seat stories that blend real grit with heart-pounding drama, hit that subscribe button right now and join the thousands who've already locked in for more. Let's dive deeper into this tale. It's one that'll stick with you long after the screen goes dark. Jake Harlan wasn't the type to flinch. He'd stared down Taliban insurgents in the dusty valleys of Afghanistan, pulled his brothers from the jaws of IED blasts, and earned his trident through sweat, blood, and unbreakable will. But that name, Viper 1, hit him like a hellfire missile. It transported him back to a night 7 years ago, under a moonless sky in the rugged mountains of Helmand province. His SEAL team, codenamed Echo Squad, had been pinned down in a brutal ambush. Bullets whined like angry hornets, RPGs exploding in fiery blossoms that lit up the darkness. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and radioing for air support that seemed like it would never come. Then, from the heavens, came the roar of an F/18 Super Hornet, its afterburners painting the sky orange. The pilot's voice crackled over the comms. "Calm, steady, lethal. This is Viper 1. I got eyes on you, Echo. Hold tight. I'm bringing the thunder." She'd strafed the enemy positions with precision that bordered on the divine, her 20mm cannon chewing through the ridgeline like a chainsaw through butter. Bombs dropped with surgical accuracy, turning the tide in seconds. Jake had watched from his foxhole as the insurgents scattered, their screams lost in the jet's deafening wake. Viper 1 saved his life that night, and the lives of his entire team. But the legend didn't end there. Whispers in the barracks painted her as a ghost in the machine, a female pilot who'd shattered glass ceilings in the male-dominated world of naval aviation, only to vanish after a classified op went sideways. Some said she was Kia. Others claimed she'd been court-martialed for pushing too hard against the brass. Jake had always wondered about the woman behind the call sign, the one who'd become a myth among special operators. And now, here she was, sipping a bourbon in a bar that smelled of stale peanuts and regret. Her name was Captain Elena Reyes, though back then, in the cockpit, she was just Viper 1, a force of nature wrapped in Nomex and resolve. Born in the sun-baked streets of El Paso, Texas, Elena grew up in a family where military service wasn't a choice. It was blood. Her father, a Vietnam vet with a Purple Heart and a 1,000-yard stare, drilled discipline into her from the cradle. The world a battlefield, Mija, he'd say, his voice rough from years of chain-smoking camels. You either fly above it or get crushed underfoot. Elena chose to fly. By 18, she was at the Naval Academy, acing flight school while her male classmates grumbled about affirmative action pilots. She didn't care. She outflew them all, earning her wings with a perfect score on her carrier quals. But the real test came in the skies over Iraq and Afghanistan, where she logged over 2,000 combat hours, dropping ordnance on targets that haunted her dreams. It was during her third deployment that everything changed. Assigned to Carrier Air Wing 9 aboard the USS Theodore Roosevelt, Elena's squadron was tasked with providing close air support for ground troops in the most volatile regions. That's where she first crossed paths with Echo Squad, though she didn't know it at the time. Her jet, a sleek Hornet loaded with dams and sidewinders, became their guardian angel. Mission after mission, she'd swoop in low and fast, her G-suit squeezing her like a vice as she pulled maneuvers that tested the limits of physics and flesh. But one op stood out: a night raid on a high-value Taliban commander holed up in a fortified compound near Kandahar. Intel said it was a clean hit, minimal civilians, maximum impact. Elena was lead pilot, call sign Viper 1, with her wingman, Viper 2, a cocky lieutenant named Mark Hawk Thompson. As they approached the target, radar lit up with unexpected signatures. Viper 1, we've got movement. Looks like non-combatants, Hawk radioed, his voice tight. Elena's heart pounded. Ground control confirmed. Proceed as planned. But something fell off. She banked hard, dropping flares to illuminate the scene below. There, in the compound's courtyard, were women and children, herded like shields by the militants. "Abort! Abort!" she screamed into the mic, yanking her stick to veer off. Hawk followed suit, but the damage was done. The brass back on the carrier exploded in fury. "You disobeyed a direct order, Reyes," her CO barked later in debrief. "That HVT escaped because of your hesitation." Elena stood her ground. "Sir, collateral damage isn't just numbers on a report. Those were lives." It was the beginning of her unraveling, a clash between her conscience and the chain of command that would define her career. Back in the bar, Jake's shock thawed into a stammered question. You're her? The one who pulled us out of that hellhole in Helmand." Elena's lips curved into a wry smile, but her eyes held shadows. "Guilty as charged, though I don't remember signing autographs." He slid onto the stool next to her, his massive frame suddenly seeming vulnerable. "You saved my ass that night. All of us. We owed you beers for life." She chuckled softly, swirling her drink. "Well, this one's on you then." As they talked, the bar faded away, replaced by shared memories of sandstorms and tracer fire. But Jake sensed there was more, a darkness lurking beneath her cool exterior. He pressed gently. "What happened after?" "Rumors said you went dark." Elena's gaze dropped to her glass. "Let's just say the Navy doesn't reward rebels. Not when they question the playbook." Flashback to the aftermath of that aborted strike. Elena's defiance earned her a reprimand, but it also caught the eye of a shadowy Pentagon operative named Colonel Harlan Vance. No relation to Jake, but irony has a way of weaving threads. Vance ran Black Ops for Joint Special Operations Command, pulling strings from air-conditioned offices in Virginia. He saw potential in Elena, a pilot with instincts sharper than a K-bar knife. "We need someone like you for Operation Shadow Veil," he told her in a sterile briefing room. It was classified above top secret, a mission to infiltrate enemy lines not from the air, but on the ground, using her bilingual skills and combat prowess to gather intel on a rogue warlord supplying arms to ISIS. Elena hesitated. "I'm a flyer, not a spook." Vance leaned in. "You're whatever we need you to be, Captain. This could make you a legend, or break you." She accepted, trading her cockpit for fatigues and a suppressed MP5. Training was brutal. Halo jumps in mock villages, hand-to-hand with Delta Force instructors who didn't pull punches. Elena adapted fast, her pilot's precision translating to sniper shots and evasion tactics. But the real mission tested her soul. Inserted into Syria undercover as an aid worker, she embedded with a network of informants, feeding cords back to drone strikes. One night, in a bombed-out mosque, she uncovered a betrayal. The warlord wasn't just arming terrorists. He was on the CIA's payroll, a double agent gone bad. "This guy's playing both sides," she whispered into her encrypted sat phone. The response for Vance? "Neutralize him." Quietly, the hit went down in a dusty marketplace. Elena slipping a poison needle into the warlord's tea amid the chaos of haggling merchants. He convulsed silently, eyes bulging in accusation as she melted into the crowd. But extraction was a nightmare. Ambushed by his loyalists, she fought her way out, taking a bullet to the shoulder that burned like hellfire. Limping through the desert, she radioed for evac. Viper 1 requesting pickup. "Package delivered, but I'm leaking." The chopper came, blades thumping like a heartbeat. But back stateside, the brass buried the op. Vance congratulated her with a medal she couldn't wear publicly. "You're a ghost now, Reyes. Best stay that way." Elena nodded, but resentment festered. She'd saved lives, ended threats, yet the system rewarded silence with isolation. Years passed. Elena mustered out honorably, her record scrubbed clean of Shadow Vale. She settled in San Diego, near the bases where jets screamed overhead, a constant reminder of what she'd lost. Civilian life chafed. Jobs in aviation consulting felt hollow, nights alone with PTSD demons clawing at her mind. Flashbacks of that marketplace, the warlord's dying gasp, mixed with the faces of those innocents she'd spared in Kandahar. Therapy helped, but bars like this one offered temporary solace, until Jake Harlan walked in. As their conversation deepened, Jake shared his own scars. After Helmand, I rotated home, but the war followed. Lost a buddy to suicide last year. Elena nodded, empathy bridging their worlds. We all carry ghosts. But tension built when Jake mentioned a name, Colonel Vance. Heard he's running for Senate now, all polished and patriotic. Elena's grip tightened on her glass. Vance, the man who'd used her like a pawn, then discarded her when congressional inquiries sniffed around Shadow Vale. Rumors swirled that he'd leaked details to cover his ass, painting Elena as the rogue element. She'd been blackballed, her career torpedoed. Revenge simmered in her veins, but she'd buried it deep. Until now, the twist came like a sucker punch. Jake wasn't just any SEAL. He was Vance's nephew, though estranged. Uncle Harlan's a snake, Jake admitted, his voice low. He screwed over good people to climb the ladder. Elena's heart raced. Here was her chance, empowerment wrapped in fate. She confided in Jake, spilling the classified beans under the bar's neon haze. He sent me in blind, then hung me out to dry. Jake's jaw clenched. Let's take him down. What followed was a whirlwind of suspense. Late-night meetings in shadowy motels, hacking into old DoD files. Jake had connections, piecing together evidence of Vance's corruption. Twists piled on. A mole in Vance's campaign tried to silence them with a drive-by that left Jake grazed and Elena's car totaled. Empowerment surged as Elena reclaimed her skills, rigging surveillance drones from hobby parts to spy on Vance's mansion. Dramatic turns escalated. They uncovered Vance's ties to arms dealers, the same networks Elena had disrupted. A surprise confrontation at a black-tie fundraiser, where Elena crashed in a stunning gown, call sign pendant gleaming. "Remember Viper 1?" she whispered to Vance, his face paling as Jake flanked her. Revenge peaked in a leaked dossier that hit the press, Vance's Senate bid crumbling amid scandals. But emotion hit hard. Jake confessed his growing feelings, a kiss in the rain as sirens wailed in the distance. In the end, justice prevailed, but not without cost. Vance faced indictment. Elena cleared her name, emerging as a whistleblower hero. Yet the conclusion was bittersweet. Scars remained, bonds forged in fire. As they stood on a cliff overlooking the Pacific, Elena turned to Jake. "We flew through hell together." He smiled and came out stronger. From which part of the country are you watching this video? Drop it in the comments below. Let's see where our storytellers are tuning in from.